Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. My name is Katie, and I am doing a series on making decisions and having an initiation, a messy middle, and finishing everything up. This can apply to many different things. So if you haven't seen my first two videos on making decisions or initiation, you might want to see those first. Today we're going to talk about the messy middle. So I very, very much like putting the word messy on here because experimentation, failures, if you want to call them failures, I don't. I call them compost because they always grow new, beautiful things. All of those things can be very messy. We can try to plan, as I mentioned in the last video, we can try to have the action steps that we want and follow them to a T, right? But a lot of the times it doesn't work out that way. Life throws us curveballs. We interact with other humans. Those humans are definitely humaning. And everybody views things a little differently. And so just because someone isn't as helpful or isn't supporting you doesn't mean you can't see this through. That we may need to steer a different direction and find a community who can help see that through. So I'm going to step through these, much like the last one. So number one, actually I didn't number these, but the beginning one of the messy middle. Is your motivation waning? So I have ADHD and it can be very, very, I get lots of initial ideas. It was really helpful for me because when I did graphic design and branding and websites, I could have a lot of those initial ideas. And as we drilled it down, my technical skills kind of switched over, and then I could see it through because all the fun, bubbly bits were gone, but it's still like sometimes in the middle, you're just like not sure if it's going to actually see it to fruition. So in the middle, it can feel like your motivation is kind of going downhill. And it is, because that first fun part, that thrill of coming up with things and that thrill of having this be new and shiny is going away. And so recognizing that that's just going to naturally happen. It's going to happen if you have ADHD or not. You're going to get excited about something, and then you're going to, at times, feel like this is going to be harder to do. So what can you even identify that that's happening? Can you see and look back and go, okay, my initial idea that I made the decision about, I've gotten this started, is some of my motivation waning? What do I do about it? So, and all these things are kind of going to help you with the motivation. Are there people who want you to succeed? Sorry, I wanted to include the next part, so I peeked. Are there people who want you to succeed? Are these family members? Are they friends? Are they found family? Who have you connected to that really want to see you do this? That maybe you kind of told them about things and they're like, yeah, you should do that. Because sometimes those can be a little bit fewer in between because we don't have 1,000 friends, right? You're going to have a few people who are like, yeah, you would be great at this, or you should try that. You may find out something about yourself that you never knew that you were like really good at because you just haven't tried. Having those cheerleaders is really important. Are there people who don't? So this is kind of the friction that you're feeling. This is kind of the rest of the world. There are a lot of people in society who will look at what you're doing and they're like, don't even bother. I don't want to see you succeed. And this is a horrible thing to say, right? And I am talking about probably those people are going to be more, excuse me, have much more of a extremely different viewpoint than you. I'm not talking about like, maybe there's some people who are in your circles and they're just a little jealous. I'm not talking about that. That is, although that can kind of occur as well. But I'm talking about society at large. There are people who are like, do not believe that you should succeed in what you're doing. And sometimes that can be your driving force, right? It's like, they thought I couldn't, but I can. So sometimes that can be very powerful. What forces are pushing back on you? It can be from society. It can be paperwork. It can be like the systems that you're trying to navigate. Maybe you are trying to start a business and you're finding out, oh, I need a permit for this. Oh, I need space to rent. Oh, I need all these things. What are those things that are pushing back? And I'm not talking about like just energy forces, although you can kind of categorize them as that. I'm talking about like, it is just hard to do some of these things. And when you're working within a set of rules of like, this is what you can do and this is what you can't, there's going to be points where you're like, this is draining me. This is making it hard for me. And I didn't realize all of this was coming up. And it's okay. You did all the research you could and you're still feeling this pushback. And that can be very demotivating, right? It can feel like, why should I do this if it's this hard? Maybe because it is this hard and there's not many people who are going to be doing it. Maybe it's because you want to prove to the people that you can be one of a shining star and really make this happen and benefit a whole bunch of people when they're trying to make sure that you don't benefit those people. Is it fear or a lack of experience that is like slowing down your momentum? Is that we talked about a little bit about fear in the last one, where you could have found out something new. Maybe you do need to rent a space and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never rented a space before. How do I even do this? That can be very demotivating. I have no experience in doing something. This is where mentorship is a huge, huge asset. Someone you can go to who can really say, oh yeah, let me help you because I've been through this. Not everyone is out there who has done this will be a mentor, but there are a lot of great people out there who will mentor. So it's finding those people. Sometimes you just have to ask the question and get the no and move on to the next one. But trying to ask questions so that you can say, hey, as a community, I want all of us to succeed. So I kind of want to know a little bit about how you did it. Not all your trade secrets, but I want to know how you did some of this. Maybe you can point me in the right direction so I can go do my work. Let's not try to gatekeep all the information because there's a lot of people out there who want to succeed and they're not going to steal from you. They're not going to have your brain or your ideas. But there are people who need more experience because they just don't have it yet, or they have some fears holding them back. So you could be a mentor to someone else. Is there a part that is super scary? Is there something that's keeping you up at night? It could be taxes. It could be that you have to travel somewhere. It could be a risk that you want to take, taking out a loan. I don't know. I'm thinking of a lot of business things, but this can also be, getting schooling and taking out student loans. And what does that mean? Could it be, volunteering somewhere where it's a pay cut? And for the long run, though, it's going to look great on your resume. It's going to get open doors further down the road, but you're going to have to take kind of a back step to take a giant leap later. Is that super scary? Identify those super scary parts because that can be new information that's not helping, but it's hindering your motivation. Your energy will wax and wane. What can you do? What can you accomplish for both? So this is like what I kind of talk about throughout my whole channel here. Whether you're neurodivergent and there's a lot of overwhelm, and it can kind of You can get burnout and you can have trouble making decisions, whether it's that or chronic illness that is just like a lot for your body to handle. There's going to be times where you have high energy and low energy or right in the middle. Can you make to-do lists for each of those energy levels so that when you have lower days, you can still step through and accomplish something? So say it's a really bad day. Getting rest is an accomplishment for the day. That is an accomplishment because you're going to feel better the next day. Maybe not amazing, but enough that maybe you could do a medium-sized thing the next day or even a low energy thing. So say you're having a really bad day, rest. So you're like at a 0, do a 1 level the next day, do a 2 level the next day, and maybe work your way up. Whatever 1 and 2 and 3 are for you. We're not talking about 1, 2, or 3 levels. High, like I do high, medium, and low. You could do 1, 2, or 3. You can do 1 to 5, whatever works. What do those definitions mean for you? So what could you pick off of like the medium level things if you're feeling better? What is something from the high level of energy that you could split and turn it into a medium or low energy thing? Because you don't have to, like a lot of times my energy is around medium or low, and that's okay. Do you need body doubling or outside accountability? Or does that feel too demanding? Or do you need a combo of both of those? So definitely for neurodivergent folks, a lot of people may need a body double, meaning you are watching someone on your laptop who's working or in a YouTube video, or you literally have someone in the room who's doing quiet work next to you. And you're both getting work done quietly together, or you're listening to headphones, and there is something about seeing someone productive that can encourage you to go, maybe it's not so bad if I just start this one thing on my list. And a lot of times I have this list in front of me for the day, and I need to look at that item and consider it for at least a half an hour while I'm doing other things and going, oh, I really don't want to do that one first, but let me consider it. So I can see like other people getting busy with their days. Maybe it's just my husband here at home. We're like getting busy and doing, sitting down at our desk, having our coffee, getting our day started. I'll see, oh, I need to go out and run that errand. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to. As I'm doing stuff for like the first hour, I'm kind of prepping my mind to go, okay, in an hour, I'm going to go and do that. Can I picture myself doing that? Okay, I see myself getting into the car. I see myself driving down the street. I see myself going to the post office. So I'm prepping my mind, but I'm kind of having body doubling right then. Or sometimes I'm more productive when I have nobody in the house at all and I don't have any outside accountability. I actually can feel more because there's less demands of me, that I feel more free and that I can work on my own. Sometimes my own to-do list is demanding enough. And that kind of goes into the realm of PDA, which is pathological demand avoidance. And this is something for those usually with autism. And it can be where any kind of demand being made upon you, you just kind of freeze. It can be that someone is asking you to do something and you were about to do it, but because someone else asked you, you feel like you want to shut down. And that is totally valid as well. So having outside demands upon you, having an inner demand where you're like, yes, I need to go and run that errand. No matter if nobody else knows about it, I need to do that. It still can feel like, oh, I have to do that. But thinking about like, is there a combination of inner demands, outward demands? And and seeing how you can step through and get those things accomplished for yourself. What is there a combo of things? Can you mix it up each day? For like a few days, maybe you need to be like at home, quiet, getting a lot of admin stuff done, or really kind of being in your head more. And then maybe there's a few days where you're out and you're interfacing with a lot of people and you're getting things done that way. You can batch things that way as well. But sometimes it's really important to really look at where the demand's coming from. Are they inside the house? And that's part of this messy middle, is like, as you're going through things, you're going to feel this, these demands upon you, and you kind of want to throw your hands up in the air. So can you clearly picture the after, or can you picture it well enough? So as I was just saying, like, it helps me a whole lot to picture what my next steps are. Okay, I need to go into this room and put my glasses away. Okay, glasses as in you wear the glasses, or drinking glasses I just need to put in the dishwasher. It doesn't matter either way. Can I picture myself doing that? Because for me, it really helps me take those next steps. Or can I picture the end of this? Can I clearly picture when I am done with this project, that I have things rolling? So it could be an end to something, or it could be a new typical way that you are operating. You could be opening up a store, and when you get to the end, you're not just going to walk away. You're not going to be like, that's the end. No, you're just ramping up, and now you have a new typical day of running a store with employees and other things. Can you clearly picture that? Can you clearly see yourself waking up and going and doing these things, either on the last day, or like the day after the last day, where you get up and know that you don't have to do them anymore? Maybe you're running a marathon, so you've been training this whole time, and the day after the marathon, can you clearly picture that? Can you clearly picture, hey, I'm going to give myself a break until the next marathon that I do? Who do you see in your mind benefiting from what you're doing? Like, we're going to return a little bit back to the initiation, but I think it's really important to revisit, why am I doing this? Who is it going to benefit? Is this, if it's like education for yourself, this is really going to benefit you. You're going to grow in ways. You're going to learn all these new things. You're going to be amazing at the end of all this education, and it's a giant leap when you go to school, whether you're, grade school, high school, but college, like whenever you're learning, there's giant leaps going on. If you're volunteering, like, who are the actual people that you're benefiting by doing this work? And usually by the messy middle, you're getting to see in volunteering, you're seeing the faces, unless it's an admin type job. There are lots of volunteer things where you're sitting at a desk, and that's what's going to suit you best. But you may be able to start seeing whether they're just, say you're updating a website of a volunteer place. You're going to start seeing pictures of the people that they're helping. You're going to start hearing about examples, maybe names. You're going to start connecting to those you are benefiting. It could be from like a zoomed out view, or it could be like, their names, you see their faces, and that makes it all the more real. And that can very much pick up your motivation. So, do you need to compost or reroute? It's very common to do this. So no matter if you're going to school, no matter if you have like a business you're starting up, no matter if you have like this long-term project that you, maybe it's a new client, there's going to be, I will almost guarantee you, there's going to be a point where you have to scrap some of the work that you've done. We very rarely go in a straight line. So can you look at these things that you go, you know what, this part here is not going to work. How do we break that down? How do we get rid of that part so Could be as easily as deleting part of a spreadsheet, but how do we break that down and rebuild or regrow that part? What can we take from that part to compost to turn it into something that's going to be nutrient dense and grow something even better than it was before? How do we reroute what we're doing so that we can get back on course or go in a new direction that we didn't even think was possible? This is going to happen. So we might as well kind of keep our eyes out for this, because I think this can lead to like, oh my gosh, I did all this work and it's for nothing. I know we've all kind of said that at times, but I think it's also good to look at it like, I didn't do all this work for nothing. It can be turned into compost. It can grow something new. I can build it better this time. I know whenever I have lost information that I have to rebuild, or a design I need to rebuild or redo because the client just didn't like it, I do it better the next time. I really do. It does. And they're so much happier for it. This will happen. It is common. What distractions have crept in? So this is continuing on from the last one. It is, I feel, you don't have to do this. Keep a journal or a diary about this, or about your project in general. As I said in the last one, keep some dates, put a little line, could be one word after that date, and say like, this is what I accomplished. And you'll find as the days mount up, or if you're going back through, you're going to see that you're making progress. It can be very hard to remember. And for me, my memory is not great. Definitely ADHD. Working memory is not great. I can try to remember a number. I can turn my head and forget the number. So I can definitely forget what I did last week and feel like I'm doing nothing. So what kind of things have I put in my journal and diary, whatever it is that you're using? How can I look back at that and see that I'm making progression? And maybe there is a distraction that has crept in. Maybe there is something kind of holding me back right now. And it could be due to fear or to trauma or to anything that you're going through, and you need to process that. It's okay to pause and process that. I don't think I actually listed that. So a distraction can be, like, hey, I'm having difficulty with my family. I need to pause. I need to work through that and then return. And you may see a gap in your diary or your journal about how you're doing things. But you'll also see like, yeah, but I got all these other things. All these other steps are moving along. So what is kind of creeping in that I just need to deal with life-wise? There's nothing wrong with distractions unless you're using them to no longer move forward. And we'll address that in a moment. But just kind of be observational, see if there's actual distraction going on, and see if maybe somewhere in your journals that it's kind of evident because you're losing momentum. And how do you course correct? How can we go back to composting or getting you can reinitiate, you can connect to the people that it's benefiting, you can take other tactics to kind of like come back to where you want to be. Did some of my support wane? I think I've been using like your and my. So how about did some of your support wane? This can happen. There can be, people you've told like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And people are like, that's awesome. And then like a month later, they're like, oh, you still doing that? And they have busy lives. Like it may not be their fault that they've forgotten that you're doing this big thing, or they're kind of like, well, that's your thing. You can go for it. They don't have to be your constant cheerleader. So where else can we find support to keep us going, to cheerlead us on? Maybe we need to find some new groups, whether they're on Facebook or anywhere online, any kind of community where you're talking back and forth. Could be on Discord, could be on Slack, could be Reddit. I don't know, wherever you want to be. Where can you find communities that are constantly saying like, yeah, keep going. And you may need to go between people because sometimes people can't just give that constant. Maybe it's within yourself. Maybe that support within yourself is kind of waning. You might want to go back to, how do you set up for the next day? As I mentioned, how do we just set up so that the next day you feel that magic again of you supporting you? This part may feel heavy. Who can you talk to about it? So with a lot of new ventures, you may find that something is bringing up something inside of you that you haven't processed yet. It could be that you've been through this before and you feel like you're just repeating yourself and that you just want to quit and why is this happening again? It could be that your inner child just needs to be held for a while and say this is okay. It could be that you need to reconcile something with someone. There could be reasons why this feels heavier than what's typical. Maybe it's just a lot of emotional stuff coming up and you want to be able to support yourself through. This is kind of like before, like, how malleable will you be? How flexible will you be? Can you be flexible enough to like slow down, take some time to process these things? And who can you talk to about it? Maybe you need to contact a therapist. Maybe you need to get a business mentor. Maybe you need to see if your family can rally around you, because that really gives you a source of like joy and know that you can get through that. So who can you talk to about it? Can you approach where you are right this moment with fresh eyes or a fresh mind or a fresh heart or all of the above? How can you step back and maybe realize maybe you're a little off course, or maybe it's going to take twice the amount of time that you need to go about it just a totally different way? How can you have a fresh outlook on everything? I pull a card. I use my oracle or my tarot deck and I pull a card. You can use whatever kind of spiritual help that you want. But I need something that's visual, that kind of jars me into looking at something completely in a different way. And when I pick something random as opposed to chosen, I find the coincidences really interesting. I think we can find coincidences in so many things. So no matter what random source, maybe you stumbled across a quote, maybe you stumbled across a written book that you want to read, or art or something in your life, and you're like, oh, that's just what I needed. Sometimes that randomness gives you a fresh outlook on things and helps you solve a problem that you're having. Even going to the art gallery and looking at art, or watching a film, or just having a conversation with someone new, stepping back from things, taking a short vacation, taking a few days off, coming back, being out in nature, and then coming back and going, you know what? When I saw that waterfall, it helped me see something in what I'm doing, and I just want to incorporate the feeling I got from that. And you would have never even thought to have gone that way until you've had that like fresh outlook on things. Can a distraction stop the rumination so you can just do it? So this, to me, is one of the tactics I use. This is much like listening to a podcast while you take a run, or you clean things, or you do something you really don't want to do. So a lot of things that you want to achieve in life have parts you don't want to do. They're always going to be there. Is there something that can help you through those? And for me, It's watching a YouTube video of a story of some kind. Whatever kind of story I'm listening to, I get out of that rumination loop, and then I can take some next steps. I can, like, when I was doing these videos here, I'm like, oh, what if I do this during the video? What if I mess up? No, I had to get that all out of my head. And so I just listened to a story, and then I sat down and wrote these, and I'm just doing it. So sometimes you can just do things. Sometimes the demands feel like too much and you can't. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the times where you feel like you're spinning, you feel like you're overwhelmed, you feel like you know what the next step is, but you're fearful of it, or just something is kind of a mental block there. And if you do something to distract yourself, you sometimes find you can just slip in and get it done. Like, I really don't want to clean my bathroom right now. That was me yesterday. I really did not want to do that. I put on something to listen to, just fun things that I can kind of be transported away. And I was looking down 10 minutes later and I was doing it. This works for me. It may not work for all. Again, you can take whatever you want from the list, but I find this really helps me get into that next step. And I'm sure you've heard of this one. This time will pass anyway. I love this one. It's a classic, I think, but the amount of time it's going to take you to do these things is going to pass. It's going to pass. Whether you do them or not, the time will pass. Our sense of time can feel slowed or fast because of what we're doing. We can be very much in the flow state where you're just doing and you just feel this naturally happening, whether it's work or organization or cleaning or something. You can get into that flow state where it's just, you lose all track of time. Or it could be one of those things that you really don't want to do and the time feels really slow. When you look at it on paper, though, when you look at it science-wise, the time will pass, and whether you have it done or not, it doesn't mean you have to hurry up. It can be that the project or whatever you're doing is going to take twice as long, but that time will pass, and it might be a little better just to have it done. I don't know. This may or may not work for you. It's kind of, that one can be a little controversial, but the last one is you are allowed to stop in the messy middle. You're allowed to. You are, I'm assuming, a grown-up. And if you're in your teens, welcome. You still have the power to say no as well. If you don't consent to what is going on, if this whole thing, you look back at this process of initiating and getting into the messy middle and you're like, this could be the biggest mistake of my life, you can stop. You can stop. It could be buying a house in a city and you're just like, yes, I want to do this. And you get there and you're like, this is wrong. This does not feel right. You can stop. There may be consequences. But for long-term happiness, it may be that you can course correct and do what you really want to do. So you are allowed to stop in the messy middle. This is not about pushing through and making sure you get this done. It can be a realization that you got really excited. You have people to support you. And then you're like, this is not my calling. This is not the thing I want to do at all. And that's okay. But I definitely wanted to put that one on because sometimes we don't know until we're in the messy middle. We don't know how bad it is. We don't know that it's not what we want to do. We can gain a whole lot of information between the idea and here that we had just no idea about. And a lot of people stop things. A lot of people just go, nope, not for me. And I'm trying to remember that quote. Is it hard or is it something you don't want to do? I think this was from, what's her name's podcast? Glennon Doyle. From her podcast, she was saying, like, how do you determine when to quit? Are you quitting when it's hard? Are you quitting because it's like emphatically a no inside your body's like, this is not right? And if it's just to the hard part, you might want to consider some of these other things to push through. But if it's just a hard no, then you're allowed to stop. So thank you for joining me. And this is the messy middle part. You might want to watch the other parts if you haven't already. And then my next one will be all about finishing. So I hope you enjoyed this. Like it on the way out. And if you want to hear when the next video is coming out, hit subscribe and hit the bell if you want notifications about that. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.